All right, welcome everyone to Cultivating Employment via Teen Advisory Boards. Our presenter is Kristina Burton from Russell County Public Library. So thank you, Kristina, for joining us, and take it away.
All right, happy to be here, everyone. Just in case any of you guys caught this presentation when I presented at KPLA earlier this year, I had almost totally lost my voice when I gave this presentation. So I hope that you will be able to hear things a little more clearly today. I've got water at my side, but just in case you do hear any bumps in the afternoon, that is the solar panels being installed in our building. And so I apologize for that, but just wanted to give you a heads up here at the beginning. So yes, I'm going to be speaking about cultivating employment via teen advisory boards. So this is a topic that a lot of people, always have questions about how to start their teen advisory boards, but this I like to think of as a different sort of angle on how they could potentially be used. So I'm going to start off with just a brief overview of teen participation at the Russell County Public Library. So it was actually non-existent until just about 4 years ago in 2019. We did have a YA collection, but there wasn't anyone on staff actively developing it. There wasn't any teen programming because we were in another building that had very limited space and no evening or weekend hours. Teens definitely showed interest in working at the library, volunteering for the library, but again, appropriate policies just weren't in place and there wasn't someone actively developing those sorts of things. And so when we got into our new building in December 2019, the Youth Services Librarian position was created. I actually kind of helped to mold that position because it didn't exist previously. I was simply working full-time circ assistant, and I just saw the need to connect that bridge. Things were being offered for the preschool age, but we often didn't see kiddos after they entered public school systems, or even like our homeschoolers were kind of falling off because there just wasn't any content that was specifically curated for them. And so we created the Youth Services Librarian position, and that allowed me to spend time developing the YA collection, offering programs, collaborating with local schools, and the new building provided more programming spaces, and we also extended our hours to be able to provide programming in the evenings and on the weekends, which are much more feasible for teenagers to attend. And one of my key programs that I launched in January 2020 was our Teen Advisory Board. I had done a lot of research and digging on Facebook groups and just comparing with other libraries and what they do to engage their community's teens, and a Teen Advisory Board seemed like a wonderful place to start. So just in case any of you aren't familiar with the Teen Advisory Board, or you just want to know a little bit more about how ours works, our Teen Advisory Board provides teens the opportunity to earn community service hours through the volunteer work that they do here at the library. That means helping us to accomplish tasks, but also they can volunteer at our programs for families and younger kiddos. As far as who can join, any student ages 13 to 18 in our community, reasons for them to join is that they can make decisions that affect their fellow teens, not only here at the public library, but the community at large. My teenagers help us to plan programs, events. They organize our book displays often, and they will stage community service projects as well. As mentioned, they're earning hours for all of these things, but they're also gaining volunteer and leadership experience and some job skills along the way, which I'll dive into here in just a moment. And it's just a really good social opportunity for them as well. They get to make new friends, talk about the books that they're currently reading, and just have fun while they're at it. As far as my expectations for those teenagers, we do have monthly meetings for them, and they are expected to attend and communicate absences when they happen. Now, I always lead things off when someone applies by saying, I know that there are just seasons of life that teens probably won't be able to attend meetings. I think about my TAB members that are currently in marching band. So this is a heavy time of year for them, and it has been since July, but they communicate that to me. And so I'm not expecting them to be at meetings for a few months. And so as long as that's communicated to me, that is perfectly fine. I'm very flexible with them. but they are expected to be an active participant, so communication is a big part of that, and to also act as a library ambassador and just general role model of positive teen behavior, not only here in the library, but at school and out in the community. And they're encouraged to volunteer as much as they can. That means that sometimes I have volunteers that I'm seeing once a week in some capacity, but again, there are some that they are content to volunteer maybe once a season or even just a couple times a year, and that is a-okay with me as well. I do my very best to include as many teens as possible, no matter what their schedules might be. A little statistics, so just to show you guys kind of what we're working with here in Russell County. So we launched very small in January 2020. I think I had about 7 people attending that first meeting, but they were steady, and I was happy with that because, as I said, I had done a lot of research in Facebook groups and such, and some people were struggling to get any attendees, so I was very happy with 7. And so we were able to meet twice in January and February of 2020, and then we all know what happened in March. And so that really put a hold on our TAB volunteering. But I will say there was a big focus on getting them re-involved as soon as possible. So whenever our doors reopened, it was TAB volunteers who would monitor the front doors and how many people were coming in the building at one time and reminding them about masks and things like that. And so they very much wanted to be involved as soon as they could. Now, we are actively offering programming every single day here at the Russell County Public Library, and our TAB membership has grown to include 33 members. I have never turned anyone down, and it just continues to grow as we have more field trips and collaborations to promote the program itself. Currently, most of those 33 members are ages 14 and 15, but I do have some 13-year-olds. I have several 18-year-olds, but most of them fall in that 14-15 window. And again, as far as how much they do volunteer, I do have some that volunteer as much as 100 hours in a given year, but then most of them fall in the 10 to 20 range. That's the average that I've calculated for them. Here are just some snapshots of some things that our Teen Advisory Board members have helped with. This was from last year's Christmas parade. So we made sure that they all got some sweatshirts, some blue Santa hats, and then we got those letters at Hobby Lobby for them to hold up and wave in the parade and throw some candy and stuff. They love being able to get outside of the library walls and do things, but they're very passionate about promoting the library any chance that they get. They are also so good about just calls to action. So I sent out a text just one Monday morning, and I said, hey, can anyone come in this afternoon and help us to count, pack, and label some seeds for our seed library? This was back in March. We were just about to launch it. And a staff member of mine, realized how much of an undertaking it was going to be when those seeds rolled in. And so I just sent out a call to action. We had these 4 TAB members happy to show up that afternoon, and they knocked them all out. It was wonderful. And so just their adaptability is wonderful. They're willing to, even if it didn't, fit in their schedule, it wasn't addressed at the meeting, that willingness to communicate with me and show up when we need them most is just always so appreciated. Another really good example of that is this past summer, we do Family Fun Fridays every Friday throughout June and July, and one of them was a Mario theme, and so it was one of our bigger programs of the summer, and we definitely wanted to provide an immersive experience for the kids in attendance. And so we had a lot of things that we wanted to create, and again, it's easy to fill up that Pinterest board and think you can do it all, but then when it comes to the week of the program, you need some extra hands. And so I believe in total we had 8 or 9 TAB members that day that helped us make some bob-ombs and some lava and all sorts of different things to create our Mario obstacle course for that event. And again, without them, it would have been such a minimalist event and it wouldn't have been near as immersive for our local children. But with their help and their willingness to just pop in and do whatever was asked of them, it really made all the difference in the world for that program. So instituting a TAB job shadowing program. So this is what I mean by cultivating employment with your Teen Advisory Board members. So I've mentioned that they can obtain service hours in a variety of ways here, and one of those is through job shadowing our full-time staff. So in 2021, we had just, slowly started ramping our programming back up. But during winter break, so when the schools are closed for the holidays, and we also have random closures as well, we weren't offering any programs during that time. But I wanted my TAB members to have opportunities to volunteer because not all of them have jobs, and they tend to have more spare time during their breaks from school. And so we decided to do a 2-week trial during winter break of a job shadowing program. And so it was offered at a variety of days and times based on staff availability. I put staff in full control of the schedule for this. And so shadowing was offered in a variety of different departments across this break, including interlibrary loan, collection development, technology, administration, graphic design, and circulation. So again, all full-time staff members carving out an hour, 2 hours in their schedule to welcome a teen advisory board member in to truly just shadow the work that they do and get some hands-on experience in these behind the scenes areas that otherwise the teens would not be exposed to. And so after the success with this program, we had teens in here every single day of that break, often multiple in all the different departments. So we counted that as a success. And so I decided to create a tier-based advancement system, because from that winter break onward, so January 2022 onward, we decided to just always offer job shadowing even throughout the school year. And so tier 1, if you were to be offering a job shadowing experience via a full-time staff member, is just a general overview. So TAB members can participate in a, just basic introduction to the various library duties, including but not limited to the topics that I mentioned earlier. So things like shelf reading, to even just get a taste of what our collection looks like throughout the building. Again, technology, graphic design, circulation, or various administrative tasks. Tier 2 is when you get into more of a deep dive of these topics. So if a TAB member comes in, they shadow for their first time in a department, and they demonstrate a knowledge of the basics, they can then do a variety of examples of things within the collections. So perhaps they've been exposed to shelf reading. Now they can go beyond the teen section, which is where I always start them out, and actually shelf read across all sections in the library. If they had the technology overview, which is basically just a tour of all the tech in our library, they can then actually start assisting with some of our monthly computer maintenance. Or if they shadowed in the Makery, which is where I am today, where we have a variety of equipment. So a large format poster printer, a button maker, a 3D printer, a photo scanner, things like that. If that's what they really zeroed in on and showed a passion for, they can actually get hands-on tutorials and opportunities to learn how to use those machines in hopes of being able to show someone else in the future. Graphic design, we always start them out in Canva. It's a very user-friendly program for them to be able to use. They can get a free account, and then they can also carry those skills into school for various presentations. So that's a great way to get them started on the graphic design side of things. If they're shadowing on the circ desk, they start out by cleaning, shelving returned items after kind of doing that overview of just everything that happens at the desk. But they can also make copies, send faxes. And then on the administrative side, that typically involves helping our director to file various paperwork before a board meeting, maybe shredding some documents that are no longer needed before audits and such like that. So yes, opportunities for students to deep dive in all of these different departments. We also have the tier 3, which I call skill development. So this is where they've come in, they've done the general overview. It was a success. They've done some deep dive activities, also a success, and they want to do even more. So this is when we actually have them start coming in on a regular schedule to develop their skills. So this would show itself in the form of daily or weekly shelf reading shifts, and also even an opportunity to provide feedback on the collection because they familiarized themselves at this point. It might also look like daily or weekly volunteering in the Makery to assist staff and or patrons. Daily or weekly graphic design sessions. So our graphic designer loves to let tab members create social media and promotional materials, especially when it comes to teen programming, because they know what's going to grab their eye. And so we love to bring them in on more of a regularly based schedule for things like that. It could be that they work a CERT desk shift alongside a part-time public service assistant on a daily or weekly basis. And then also weekly or monthly administrative assistants, as mentioned, typically around the time of a board meeting or something important for our director to have that administrative help with. So that is Tier 3, skill development. And so that is really where a lot of our tab members hang out for a while, especially if they are on the younger side, so 13 or 14 years old. They can hang out in Tier 3 for as long as they wish. And then the next step, if they choose to follow this path, is a recommendation for employment. So we have been very blessed to be able to employ a recently graduated teen at the library in the summers for the last several years through a grant provided by our local Lake Cumberland Area Development District. And so if a tab member successfully demonstrates library skills through regular job shadowing and is nearing the end of their tab term, so that would be either they are about to turn 19 or they have graduated high school, a staff member can recommend them for temporary employment via that summer program. Additionally, any tab member who have successfully demonstrated skill via shadowing or summer employment, they will always receive top consideration when an opening arises. So at that point, when they have exited the Teen Advisory Board program, they then go onto our list anytime we are looking for part-time help, either as a public service assistant, as a graphic design intern, as a program assistant. There are a variety of spaces in which we could use them. And so whether it's summer employment or they are just added to the top of our list for part-time spots, that is what our Tier 4 looks like for tab members. Now, staff expectations, because when you are trying to institute a program like this, it is so important to have staff on board. And especially if new positions are being instituted, that means that even more shadowing opportunities are becoming available to your teens. And so I like to lead at least one training every 6 months, but typically on more of a seasonal basis, because at least in the last couple of years, we have had a lot of staff turnover and new positions created. And so it's always just a good thing to refresh people on what it means to actually host a tab member in this job shadowing program. So staff are always asked to adhere to dates and times that are specified in the schedule. So once a month before the Teen Advisory Board meeting, I reach out to all of our full-time staff and I ask them if they would like to host a tab member for shadowing in that given month. And I ask if they would provide me the dates and times that they would like to have a shadower. And it is just very important to me, much like it is with my tab members, that if something comes up and their availability changes, that they notify me ASAP, because I most definitely do not want a tab member to show up ready to job shadow someone and the staff member has, I don't know, made a dentist appointment at that exact time. They really need to be able to provide the schedule as it is meant to be followed by my tab members. And again, if something changes, if something happens that's out of the blue, they make me aware of that. I also expect my staff to make connections with tab members, but avoid getting personal. So that means if they have a shadower, they do not need to be having conversations about anything political, any sort of religious beliefs, obviously sexual topics, inappropriate language, things like that. Even if they aren't having the conversation with the teen, those types of conversations don't need to happen around the teen. There is no need for my Teen Advisory Board members to be aware of the personal views of any of our staff. It is also expected for staff to provide a basic overview of their department. So when a tab member walks away from a shadowing shift, I want them to have a basic knowledge of job duties by the end of that first session. And so, for example, if they came in and they did shelf reading during their shadowing shift, I want them to feel comfortable moving to any section of this library after they leave. A tech shadower should feel confident using either a digital resource on our website or a piece of makery equipment after that first session. A graphic design shadower should be familiar with Canva basics. A cert desk shadower, they should be able to clean and reshelve books and make a copy or send a fax after that first session. Then, staff are also expected to allow the tab members to deep dive if they have entered the Tier 2 section. So staff is expected to be available and prepared for them to ask questions. It is not something that you schedule a shadower, they come in, and then you just go back to your desk and let them do their own thing. You are there for them to encourage their curiosity and provide hands-on learning opportunities. Affirming language is also something that's very important to me. Our tab members desperately want to feel like they're contributing something in this space. And so I need my staff to let them know that they are. And so that is a 100% thing that I insist upon staff if they're going to host a tab member. I also want them to be on the lookout for standout skills that are worth cultivating. So, for example, if you have a tab member who is shelf reading and they would make an excellent candidate for some collection feedback or even just some weeding assistance, inventory assistance, any of these tasks that we know are large undertakings, let them do some of that hard work if they've showed investment in the collection. Or if a tab member regularly shadows technology, let them host some open makery hours or some workshops. There's no reason that they can't be hanging out in here in case someone needs to come and make a button. They can show them just as well as myself or another staff member could do that. A tab member regularly shadowing graphic design, I mentioned this earlier, we love to assign them weekly social media posts or promo materials that they can help us with. And again, feel invested in what's happening here. Or someone who demonstrates confidence on the cert desk. Regular shifts is something that we really like to institute with them. And again, that makes them an excellent candidate for that summer employment program because more often than not, the desk is where we need the most extra coverage in the summertime because we have full calendars. So speaking of how our tab members feel about this program, I felt like it was important to let their voices be heard as part of this presentation. So I've included a couple of testimonials here. One is from a tab member who has actually only been on board this year, but he has been doing some tech shadowing for us, and he is very invested. He really wants to demonstrate a genius bar effect here at the library. If you've ever been to the Apple store, he loves to help our community with their tech needs. So he really enjoyed job shadowing. I'm surprised by how much he learned and will definitely be doing it again. That was a testimonial that I got back in March, and he absolutely has job shadowed more and just continues to learn and impress me every single time that he's here. And then Bryson is actually a senior in high school, and so he is one that will be graduating from the program, but he is one that I would 100% recommend for employment in any of our areas. He talks about how inspiring the experience has been. He has spent time with multiple full-time staff, but he does a wonderful job learning all of their specific tasks and how they deal with problems. He job shadows so much that he regularly gets to observe patron interactions or, confusion over, okay, the printer's not working. What do we do about that? Oh, the poster printer ran out of paper right in the middle of a print. What do we do about that? And he absorbs those problem-solving skills. And so I think it has just been a wonderful experience for him, and he speaks to how great it has been in this testimonial. But again, really showcasing those job skills that would be excellent as an employee here, but also just elsewhere in our community as well. And so I'm always invested in writing letters of recommendations for these tab members to help move them along, be it in their educational walk or their career path. And so if you hear all of this today and you think, okay, but how do I do this at my library? I know that it can seem like a daunting task. It seemed daunting to me when I was looking at all of it, but it is so possible and it can be so rewarding. Initially, I just ask that you evaluate your current level of team participation. So are you like we used to be and there just isn't any? What's going on with that? What's the reasoning behind that? Is it space? Is it you don't have a staff member assigned to it? Is it a lack of hours that could facilitate that type of participation? Figure out how things currently look. And then communicate with leadership about that. If you see places where there are gaps or changes that could be made to facilitate more team participation, please bring that to your director's attention if it's not already there. And launch a teen advisory board if you can. Even if you're not the staff member to do so, talk to fellow staff members, see who could spare, one meeting a month to get some teens into your library that desire leadership and community service, not only within the library, but just at large as well. It's very important too to start small, but include all. So when you're going into this, you don't need to go into it with these large, huge, big scale expectations. You want to be able to meet whatever you set for yourself as these goals. And so when you're talking to leadership, keep them aware and supportive of your initiatives. Again, if they aren't on board, it's going to be really hard to develop this into a successful program. So once you have leadership on board, that's when you start having these conversations with other staff members. Keeping them informed about new additions. So letting them know, hey, I am going to launch a teen advisory board, getting them updates on how the first meeting goes. How many members do you have at the moment? Oh, are they just volunteering at programs, or do you want to do some job shadowing? What are they doing in the community? Those sorts of things. If you keep staff informed, they're going to be more likely to respond favorably. So especially if you're in a library where there's not a lot of teen participation or teens just kind of floating around the building, odds are there are staff members that are going to be kind of put off by that if it just changes all of a sudden. And so again, if you want a favorable response, I really encourage keeping them informed. It should not just show up on their calendar one day, or they're scrolling through Facebook and they see the post along with everyone else. They should be on the front lines as far as where that information funnels through. And again, once they're in it, that's when you can say, okay, well, here's what my expectations are for you. And so if the expectations are clear for your staff as well as your tab members, you're just bound to have a more successful program that way. They should always be able to walk into any volunteer situation knowing what's expected of them on both sides. And then if you get all the way there, that's when you get to establish a schedule and advancement system if you like. Now, you may want to just take it really slow and say, okay, all we want are some tier 1 volunteers. And so you sign up, you get this overview, and that's about it. We don't really go beyond that. That's perfectly fine. But if you're attending this session, odds are you want to do a little bit more than that, and you want to cultivate some employment in your library with these teens. And so that's where I encourage the advancement system. It by no means has to look like mine. That's just what we found worked for us, and it seems to be the natural flow of things. But again, you could skip a tier, add a tier, do whatever meets your specific library's needs. And again, don't be afraid about going slow, starting small. Keep those expectations at a manageable level. So let's talk about these things. This is my first time actually doing a virtual presentation, but I hope that you guys will chime in the chat, ask some provoking questions, because I often find that discussion about these things is what provides a lot of clarity, levity, and just makes it feel a lot more on the accomplishable side for all of you guys out there in the library world. But just in case you don't feel comfortable expressing things in the chat, there is my contact information. I would love to hear from y'all. If this is something that you've tried and maybe it's been an incredible success, or maybe you've had some stumbling blocks along the way, let me know. We'll talk, we'll figure out the best way to kind of get you on this path to cultivate employment with your teen advisory board.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Kristina. This is really, really interesting. I love seeing your whole process. While we're waiting for any comments or questions to roll in, I just want to suggest for both you as the presenter and all of our attendees, if this topic interests you, when we post the recordings of our sessions, I really recommend that you check out Relational Equity by Design, Insights from the Kentucky Student Voice Team and their Adult Ally. That's going to be really valuable. We also had a session today on intergenerational making in libraries, and it talked a lot about the positive experience of both teens, helping adult patrons, and also kind of your senior patrons who get to feel useful when imparting their skills in a makerspace to younger generations. Okay, well, does anybody have any questions or want to share about your teen advisory boards or any struggles that you're having with teen programming or successes? We have a question from Sarah in Breckenridge County. Transportation is our biggest issue. Did you have any problems with that or ways you overcame it?
So this is always an issue for us as well, but I think especially with this program, because during the school year we offer it immediately after school. So school's let out at 2:30 all across the county. And so we start our program at roughly 3 p.m. And so something that has really changed the game as far as this is concerned is I was able to get into contact with the bus driver who passes by the library every day. We had never been a stop on that route or anything because we had never really had a reason to. But now, whether it's this or for our after school homework help program, or even just teens wanting to attend our programs a little later in the evening, they can now ride the bus from school to the library. Now, yes, they are responsible for someone picking them up after their shift has ended, but that has really made a big difference as far as that initial hurdle of how do they get here to be able to participate in these things. So I hope that helps. Maybe explore with your local schools and see if that's an option for you.
All right, thanks for that question, Sarah. Now we have a question from Courtney in Garrett County. How do you get the word out to get teens to join the board? I started with 8 to 15 teens per program, and now I'm down to 2 to 3. Not sure how to get them to come.
Yes, so, we always make posts on social media, but we have found that oftentimes the people engaging with those are the teachers and parents, which can be a great soundboard and get the word to the teens. But I have found that the best teen interaction that I have to get them to attend is field trips. So whether that is me in the schools talking about teen advisory board and how important it is to earn service hours early on and how great it looks on applications, and I will provide, testimonials about kids that have been to Gatton Academy or GSP and how I wrote letters of recommendation. That always seems to be a really big selling point for the teens. I always see an influx of applications after those field trips, either me going to the schools or them coming here to the library. So yeah, highly recommend that, because that word of mouth, that direct connection with the teens is going to be the best way to get that word out and kind of keep that momentum going for sure.
Wonderful. Thanks, Courtney, for that question. Next up, we have a question from, I hope I pronounce this correctly, Angela from Anadarko Community Library, which is located in Oklahoma. Oh my gosh. Oklahoma. It's been a long day. We're glad we've got people from out of state attending. Her question is, or questions, how did you advertise and did you team with high school teachers?
So again, when we first launched this in 2020, it was just a big social media push and a big push in the schools. And so I just try to maintain that as part of just my regular promotion. It is always a focus in all of our monthly programming booklets that go out with the calendar of everything that we have going on. But then again, a monthly Facebook post, Instagram post about the meetings themselves. And then anytime I'm in the schools or at a community event, I'm always happy to provide that information to the teens. And then again, we have numbers at this point where they are an excellent form of promotion. And so they are in school and they're telling their friends, hey, I'm riding the bus to the library today to job shadow. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Tell me more. And then I'll have 3 actually show up here, and 2 of them are new applicants for Teen Advisory Board. So they are by far the best word of mouth, but again, those school collaborations are certainly key in getting the word out about this and all of our teen programs, truthfully.
All right, next up we have a comment from Ashley. She says, that's interesting in regards to hosting after school. I am always worried about having the program too close to the end of the school day. I wonder if this would be more beneficial for us since we have limited hours. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, so this is something that has actually kind of surprised me as well because, again, I said when we were in our previous building, we didn't offer anything for teens because we closed at 4:30 every day. And, I just didn't see that as a potential time for teens to do something at the library. And, we have had a lot of success with our evening and weekend programs as well. And so this was truly just, shot in the dark. Like I said, it started on a winter break where times were a little more flexible. But then, I went to those students and tab members who had volunteered and said, hey, if we did this after school, what's the general interest? And I have found that especially for my older tab members, that plea for, hey, can I work at the library tends to grow. And so when I say, okay, well, part of that is job shadowing. And so then they're more invested, and a lot of them can drive here and find their own way. But then again, then the younger ones see that happening. They want to know how to get here. And so they're either riding here with their friends, riding the bus. And so, yeah, we love seeing our teens come in right after school. And so that way they can really do their service from about 3 to 4:30, whether that's through job shadowing or program prep or our tutoring program. And then we actually offer the fun stuff around 5 or 6 for them to be able to kind of just cool off after all that.
All right, while we're waiting for more questions to come in, I have a really superficial one because I don't work with youth at all. I haven't done youth services specifically. But one thing I expected to hear about but did not was about snackage. So is there a key snack that your library provides that keeps those kids coming back?
Well, and it's so funny because, again, when I was new to this position, it seemed like the, common thread was everybody saying food, food, food is the way. And so, I started out, Teen Advisory Board members, we always had pizza. We always had snacks. But I'll be honest, rarely ever were they gobbling it all up. I was always having to send entire pizzas home with teens because no one ate them. And so, honestly, we don't have it. We don't have a lot of food-based programs for them. Now, I will say we have the, I guess, pleasure of being located in between a Dollar General Market and a Family Dollar Tree. And so we do occasionally have teens that pop over there and get their own snacks. But yeah, we just found that we were spending a lot of money on things like pizza and snacks and drinks for these teens. And honestly, they were just so busy doing what they do that things weren't being eaten. And so, yeah, we don't currently have that. Now, I will say that is something that really seems to work with our tweens that actually come here to be tutored or things like that. They want the snacks, and so we make sure that we have them. But the teens, no, it seems like they've either taken care of it on the ride here, or they plan to go in between their shadowing and stuff and whatever program is happening that evening. So that hasn't been a big thing for a while.
Okay, well, interesting. So in the chat, Jamie number 3 offers apparently Pop-Tart bites are big with teens.
I mean, I love those. So
I've never had them because I apparently am old. Um, and then Ashley offers that I've noticed some teens that attend my events generally only want water.
Oh yeah, that's a wild thing. Like I've had like a tab banquet, where I'm recognizing these tab members and I load up on sodas and everything and they're rarely even touched because they just want water. Now I will say they will insist about what temperature the water is. They really dig some room temp, I have found. So yeah, it's so interesting to just see the things that you expect them to be into and the things that they actually gravitate toward.
Yes, Ashley offers that this is a healthier generation. I have to say I'm surprised because I would have been all about the soda, the pizza, or whatever was offered. So I'm glad that the younger generation has wised up and they're actually thinking about their health in advance. Okay, well, any other questions, comments? Feedback on preferred snackage. I'm also still open to that. It's, potentially something I'll pick up at the grocery after work today. So please feel free to type those things in. Okay, Ashley says thank you for all this valuable information. I agree. This was a really great presentation, and I'm glad you were able to repeat it when you had the voice to speak loudly throughout. Yes. Came out really well.
Yes, thank y'all for being here.
Okay, we're getting thank yous, and I loved this. Yeah, I think folks have full brains after a day of programming. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Again, if you want to contact Kristina after the presentation, you can reach her at Kristina@russellcountylibrary.com. So thank you, Kristina, for being our presenter. Thank you for our audience for sending in your questions and comments. And we hope you'll join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. when sessions begin again.
Thank you so much.